Hello everyone. As I promised, I'm going to go through my Dwight videos and answer a bunch of questions. I had asked everyone to send in questions on my Facebook page that you might have about my process or anything that I can then talk to you about on these videos. The first question comes from Jason Church, who asks, "What type of brushes are you using?" So basically, I use very simple brushes. I'm not a very computer, um, you know, high tech type person. Um, I don't really know much about my own computers, and if something's wrong, I'm usually in trouble. But I do know how to paint, and so I basically use Photoshop as a tool. Um, and so um, I for years I never even used layers. That's only the last year or so I've been getting more into using layers and doing some things with that because it saves me some time. But I try to keep things really simple with Photoshop, and I use limited palettes and so on. Um, I don't do any manipulations or any weird Photoshop trickery or anything. It's just drawing and painting. And so when it comes to my paint brushes, I like to keep it as close as to what I'm used to when I paint traditionally. And I really like the brush number 24. I feel that that brush has it's got a feeling that I can relate to. It's very brushy, very loose. That standard comes with all Photoshop, and that's basically the main brush that I use. And I set my opacity at 79, 78%, sometimes 100%, and my flow is always at 100%. Um, and Yeah, that's basically it. Occasionally, I'll use a round brush, and I'll use a round soft to do some hair, um, and I'll work in that brush number 24 on top of that, or in I basically will switch in between those brushes, um, and that's pretty much it. So the next question was, do you work dark to light? Um, and yeah, I guess for the most part I do. The main thing that I am doing when I do my paintings is I am focusing on values. Um, I'm squinting my eyes. I'm trying to find the darkest darks, the lightest lights, and I'm also focusing on, of course, form, anatomy, and of course with caricature. You know, I've exaggerated, but I don't want to lose the likeness and the strength and the unique qualities of the person that makes them who they are. So, I'm also focusing on um, trying to capture their character as well. But the main thing is when I'm painting in values, um, I like to sort of tone the canvas and then pull out my lights. But I will work back and forth, establishing darks, getting darker where it needs to be, getting lighter. Um, and I never stay in one area. You'll notice on this Dwight video that I'm moving around quite a bit, painting. I'll, on the mouth, and then all of a sudden I'll be painting on the eyes, or I'll be painting the forehead. I move around quite a bit. I step back, I zoom out, I try to see the whole painting, as a whole, and from there, uh, that doing it this way helps me basically to bring the whole piece together all at once, rather than just focusing on one area. I think people um, have a tendency to get carried away too early on with details, and that's what I'm trying to avoid is getting carried away with the details. Um, I'm trying to just block in the main shape, the main form, and it piece by piece it starts to come together, sort of like a puzzle. Um, the detail is literally the last final touches. But the main thing is try to remember to bring the whole piece together all at once instead of just focusing on one area. I used to do that. I used to just paint the eyes, and I'd spend hours painting the eyes. And then as I started developing the rest of the face or the rest of the illustration, I'd realize that my values were all off everywhere else. And then I have to end up reworking the eyes again, and so it's much easier and much better to work the whole piece at once. Um, so Jason's next question is: do you use low opacity and build up your layers? Do you use a lot of layers? Um, so I don't use too many layers typically. I might use layers when I'm doing hair. I've got a certain technique that I've developed when I do hair. It helps me to make it feel layered and more transparent. But I usually flatten that down. I don't really like to have too many layers. But the first question: do you use low opacity to build up layers? No. Um, I just paint with feeling. I've got my Cintiq set, I guess, normal, and I paint with feeling. The harder I press down, the more darker or harder the value is going to be. The lighter the value. So it's a lot of control with my hand, um, and I mean there's different situations, different times where I have um, dropped my opacity down quite a bit. Uh, to get really soft edges and so on. But for the most part, no, I keep it pretty much the same all the time. So let me move on to another question here. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to move on to someone else's question here. Um, Dan Johnson. Um, okay, Dan Johnson asks, do you think it's important to learn fundamental drawing skills before you start to develop a unique style? And do you think you should be able to draw a straight portrait before attempting to draw caricatures? Just something I've been thinking about recently. Thank you, Dan Johnson. Um, okay, so yeah, I think that should be a very obvious decision and choice. To learn fundamental drawing skills before you start developing a unique style. A unique style is, I don't really know if it's something you can just achieve, you know, in a matter of a short time. I think it's definitely something that takes time to develop. And I mean, you can find an artist that you really like, that you really respect, and you can uh, try to copy that style, and eventually, um, you might start to develop your own style based off that other person's style. Um, so I mean, in one way, it's quite easy to look at a style of an artist that you like, and kind of start to mimic it. And because you are a unique person yourself, you're not going to be able to do it exactly the same and have the exact same look. There's going to be a little bit of you in there, but that's not really being original and having your own style. I think it's much healthier and much more important as an artist to be influenced by other artists, but but then from there to be able to take that to another place, to your own place. Um, and but the main thing, the first part of your question is understanding the fundamentals of drawing. That is really important. Yeah, you're not even gonna be able to have your own style, your own technique if you haven't learned uh, how to draw. So it's very important to learn how to draw, to understand, what rendering values. What does that even mean? Drawing form, drawing the face, the muscles in the face, the anatomy of the face. That's all really important things um, to understand and to grasp. Um, so yeah, I definitely think before you break into your own style, you definitely need to understand that. But also before you break into your own style and develop your own style, there's a lot more that comes into play. I mean, I think that developing your own style, that just takes time. It takes years. I think all artists are influenced by several different artists, or many artists. There's a lot of artists that I'm influenced by, but I'm not trying to copy any of these artists. I'm just noticing things about what they're doing that I think is beautiful or exciting, and I try to think about that when I draw. And I guess I don't even see any of my work as having a particular style, even though I've been told I've got a unique style. I don't really see that. I keep changing and growing, and I think it just comes from time. It comes from drawing and painting a lot, and it comes from studying and looking at other artists that you really like, that you really respect. Um, so anyway, this is going to be the end of this first video. I will continue the questions on part 4 of the Dwight video. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope that I'm doing this correct, and I'll have it up soon.